Hey guys, welcome back to some more reviews, and I know that I said I was going to review the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, which I will, soon, but I want to talk about these three movies first because I've been wanting to review these movies for a while. I believe on my older videos, before I deleted them, I did reviews for, I think, only the first two movies, I think the second movie I did a review for. If I didn't do a review of the second movie, I just did a review on the first one. But this is a series I wanted to review first, and it is the Hostel films. Now I have all three of them on DVD. Maybe eventually I'll get the first one and the third one maybe on Blu-ray. But for right now, I just have them on DVD. And I think they're all unrated. Yeah, they're all three the unrated director's cut. So, they definitely got like the full blast gore in these. And Hostel, I could say I like the franchise because there's really only one movie I hate. The other two I like. But I can say I like this movie series. I like the concept of it. Like the ideas they brought to, like the intensity of the movies, and it's really gory and it's really twisted ideas, and it's definitely because Quentin Tarantino helped make the movie. I don't really remember because it says Quentin Tarantino presents, so he was involved with the first and second movie. And second movie, I'm not really a big fan of. It's really not. It's probably the only one I hate. The other two I like. I used to be a huge fan of Hostel. Still am a little bit of a fan of Hostel. But I like the movies. The first one's definitely the best one, so I can say I'm a fan of the first movie. But the third one I like. So I think altogether, I think it's a pretty good series. They might make a sequel later on, but for right now, I'm reviewing the first, all three of these movies. They might make a sequel, so I'll review whenever it does come out. I'll review that, but for right now, I'm just reviewing these three movies. Before I want to review the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, I want to review this franchise, and I want to review some newer movies that are by themselves, like Oculus. I didn't talk about Oculus yet. Maybe Mama. Some of them are kind of older ones, like Mama and stuff like that, but maybe talk about Mama, maybe talk about Oculus, some of the newer movies, and some of the movies that are sort of by themselves, don't have sequels. So I want to talk about those for a little bit, or a little while, do a few reviews on those movies, and then I'll talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So, doing this series, we're talking about some movies by themselves, some of the newer movies by themselves like Oculus and stuff like that. And then I'll talk about the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. But of course, in this review, we're talking about the first Hostel, which I can say I'm a fan of. It's pretty good. I like it. This is the 2-disc director's cut edition, pretty much special edition. It actually comes with a lot of features. Comes with like 4 commentaries, and then 2 featurettes. Director's cut ending, music and sound featurette, set design featurette, K&B effects featurette, which was these are all fun features. Interview with the director, director Takeshi Miike, and then the treatment radio with interview with Eli Roth. So it has a lot of features to it, and this is definitely a twisted, messed up movie. Now, I've reviewed Eli Roth movies in the past. I reviewed Cabin Fever, and I believe, like I said, the first Hostel. But Eli Roth as a director, I think, is a pretty good director. He's directed Cabin Fever, Hostel. He came out with a new movie called The Green Inferno, which looks decent. From what I can see of it, looks decent. And he also made a movie called Knock Knock, which gets a low rate, gets a 4.9 on IMDb, but the trailers look pretty cool. So I think as a director, he's pretty cool. Does some pretty cool stuff, like Cabin Fever, Hostel, and then The Green Inferno. I think he directed The Green Inferno. Yeah, The Green Inferno, which gets a 5.5 on IMDb. I haven't seen that movie yet, The Great Inferno. But he also directed Hostel Part 2. And Hostel 1, I enjoy it. Mainly because it has great special effects, mostly practical. Actually, they're all practical. I don't remember one CGI moment in this movie. At least I can't remember it. But a lot of practical effects, twisted idea, messed up idea. Definitely an idea that is grueling and definitely creepy. And the atmosphere was done well. The gritty, realistic sort of atmosphere. The characters, for the most part, are likable, but they're sort of your typical characters. They're pretty much what it's about is you've got characters named Josh, Ollie, and Paxton, played by Derek Richardson from Dumb and Dumber, when Harry and Lloyd met, which was a crappy sequel or prequel, whatever. Jay Hernandez, who was from Quarantine, and Ithor Gunjohnson, don't know what he's from. And basically, you got these three guys. They're pretty much over in Europe, and they're over there to get laid. They're over there going to like all these strip clubs and stuff like that, and partying and drinking and smoking weed. And they hear about this place that has some of the best chicks in Europe. And they go there to this hotel or hostel. And while they're there, they get seduced by these women. And one by one, they start disappearing. And then you get to the point where you find out that these people at this hostel are like kidnapping people and putting them in the cellar and torturing them. And there's people around the world paying money for this. And you get a few cameos. I believe there's more of them in Hostel Part 2. Like, I think it was Eli Roth's father's in this movie. And then the guy that directed Cannibal Holocaust is in this movie as well. But, yeah, I mean, the first Hostel, you have a few cameos. And like I said, you have a cameo by Takashi Mikey. I can't pronounce the name right. I'm sorry. I'm bad with names. But I think he directed one of those. I think he directed a movie before, but I can't really remember. Here, let me look it up. Some sort of movie he directed. Some sort of, I think it was like an extreme movie or something. I don't know, like gory and stuff. I'm not really sure. Whatever. I know that he directed a movie, and that Eli Roth was a big fan of the movie and wanted him in this movie. It's like Hostel Part 2, where he got the director of Cannibal Holocaust in the movie. And, so yeah, you got him in the movie, you got a few cameos. And basically, like I said, you found that these people have this sort of underground torture chamber in this abandoned building. And people are paying millions of dollars for people to get killed. And basically, one by one, these people start disappearing. And you find out that, like, Derek Richardson, he gets tortured. And these torture scenes are really intense and really, really freaking gruesome. Like this guy who plays, I'm trying to see who was the actor, but basically he plays his doctor, and he comes in and slits this guy's ankles, like slits his Achilles heel, his Achilles tendon, and freaking slits it, and he can't walk, and he goes to get up, and his freaking ankle like bends forward, and it cracks, and he falls on the ground, and it's a really painful scene. You're like, oh my god. And this was probably the one movie, also I should mention this. This is like the first movie I was not allowed to watch as a kid. Like, I seen this DVD laying around. I didn't watch it though, but I seen it laying around. It's like, hey mom, can I watch that movie? She's like, no. You're not watching Hostel yet. Actually, I watched Hostel the first time like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I think, for the first time, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. I think so. I mean, it was, I think, 2012 when I seen Hostel for the first time, and it shocked me. And I think I seen Hostel Part 2 the same year, and I didn't like it. And I seen Hostel Part 3, I think, even the same year as well. So I've seen all three of these movies in the same year, I think. And the first one's definitely the most impacting one. Like, it's got a lot of impact behind it. I mean, you've got a lot of controversial stuff to the movie. You have some really extreme gore. Like I said, this is like the first movie I couldn't watch because of how gory it was. And I watched a bunch of classics like Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th Part 1. I think Part 1, 3, 4, and 2 were the ones I grew up with the most. The first 4 movies, pretty much. And I think Part 6. Those are the ones I grew up with watching, the Friday the 13th movies. And then I see Nightmare on Elm Street and Chucky movies, but I could not watch Hostel. My parents were like, no, you're not watching Hostel. I was like, and now I know why, because it's freaking extremely gory. And this is the uncut version, so there's way more gore in it. There's lots more gore. And, Derek Richardson, his character, Josh, gets tortured, his ankle's cut. He gets up. I think it's actually, they said it was the actual practical effect from Kill Bill, from when she slits the guy's ankle. I think they said that was actually the practical effect from that movie. And you got him getting basically cut open as well and tortured. And then pretty much Ollie gets his head cut off. And then it comes down to Jay Hernandez or Paxton. He's pretty much trying to figure out where his friends are. And he finds that these more and more people are disappearing from the hostel. And he's noticing this. He's like thinking how strange it is. This one's definitely more suspenseful than the second one, because you don't know what's going on. The second movie, what does Hostel Part 2 do? It just explains stuff from the first movie. That's all it does. Really, Hostel Part 2, all it is it explains the first movie, explains how this whole deal with the money and these people dying happens, and the details behind that, and how they capture people, and where the chamber is, and who's behind the chamber. And I was like, it's uninteresting. This was much more suspenseful when you didn't know what was happening. You didn't know what was going on. You didn't know what these people were doing or why they were doing it. And piece by piece, you sort of put this puzzle together, and you're like, okay, these people are rich and they're paying for people to die and stuff like that. It's crazy. It's a crazy idea. Hostel Part 2, A, it just copies the first movie because it has the same stuff. And B, if it is different, all it is explaining stuff. Anything that was different about this movie was just explaining stuff. Explaining how it all happened and stuff like that. I'm like, that's uninteresting because it made it less suspenseful and scary. So it kind of sucked. And Hostel Part 1, though, it had a tension to it. It had suspenseful moments to it. When Paxton's running around trying to figure out what's going on, he gets captured, and he's in the torture chamber, gets his fingers cut off by a chainsaw, but then he fights back, and the chainsaw falls on the guy and cuts him in half. Or the guy puts a blindfold on him, and taking scissors, like, all by his ears and stuff like that. Suspenseful tension, suspenseful moments. And pretty much Jay Hernandez or Paxton, I just call him Paxton, whatever. Paxton gets out of there, he's escaping, and on his way out, he realizes that there's this girl who, pretty much this Asian girl who, sort of has feelings for him a little bit, and he goes back for her to help her, and it's a really messed up scene where this dude's like drilling holes in her face, and he's like taking a freaking blowtorch and just and her face is really messed up. It gets all burned up and pussed up, and her nose is it's really graphic. So if you're gonna go in these movies, I gotta warn you, they're graphic. Now I understand this isn't the most graphic movie out there, but they're definitely graphic. But it's just this one scene it got me. This is the one scene in the whole series that just, when I first watched, I had to stop the movie. I was like, oh my god. Well, I mean, I didn't stop the movie, but I just sort of like, oh god. I didn't stop it, but it was just like, ooh. And he kills the guy that's pretty much torturing her, and her nose is like hanging off by a piece of skin. Ugh, god. And he takes scissors and he cuts it off, and there's just freaking goo stuff that comes out of her skin, and it's just like pus, and it almost made me throw up. That's how gross it was, and I almost threw up from it. Now there's some people like, well, there's more extreme movies out there than this. I don't know, the first time watching it just kind of shocked me, because I was like, oh god. It's really, really gross scene. and disturbing scene. And pretty much they get out of there. They get to this train station. They're killing people on the way. They're killing these torturers and stuff like that. They get to this train station. The girl realizes that she's deformed, and she commits suicide, jumps in front of a train. And Paxton just runs off. He kills the guy that tortured his friend Josh, and pretty much helped get them into the hostel and stuff like that. Or just the guy that was torturing his friends and stuff like that. And he kills the doctor guy, the crazy doctor guy. And pretty much he gets in a train and he escapes in the movie. And the freaking sequel messed that all up. Because I'll leave it for the sequel. I don't want to spoil it in case if people haven't seen Hostel Part 2. But I think the majority of people have. But yeah, Hostel 1 is definitely it's a great movie. It's got tension to it. It's got freaking disturbing and gross scenes to it. It's got really it's suspenseful because you don't know what's going on. You got to piece it together what's going on. Why this is happening in the movie? Practical effects, good writing, decent characters for the most part. Not really much to them, but they're decent characters for the most part. And great directing, great writing and stuff like that. And just all together a well-made movie. And that's my review for the first Hostel. Definitely pick up this DVD if you're a fan of the movie. It's got a lot of features to it, and it's got a lot of like extra gore and stuff to it. And yeah, it's a pretty good addition. So yeah, that's my review on the first Hostel, and my next review would be on Hostel Part 2, which I swear immediately after I turn this off, I'm going to turn the camera back on for Hostel Part 2. So I'll be uploading these like right after the other, and then maybe I'll review Hostel Part 3 a little bit later. So yeah, that's my review on the first Hostel movie. It's great. It's definitely a modern day classic, I would say. Great movie. And thanks for watching my review on the first Hostel. And I'll see you guys in my review for Hostel Part 2. And yeah, see you guys then.